Welcome back. And so let's head right into the papers. And our guest joins us today, Mr. Igo Akiria, member, Nigeria Guild of Editors. Mr. Akiria, welcome to the program.
Yeah, Bukola, good morning, Jeffrey, and my brother there. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure joining you in the morning.
All right. Maybe before we head into the serious issues, well, it's not as if sports is not serious, but you know, it's something that bands us together, and there's a lot of excitement in the air, courtesy Nigeria's Super Eagles. So let's get to feel your own pulse as well ahead of that crucial match with Morocco.
Well, I think everyone is upbeat. The country is tensed up a bit because don't forget Morocco is the host country, and with Hakima, or was that their top player that you know they are relying on. And of course, I was also listening to their coach yesterday, who was boasting. You know, don't forget the Algerian coach also boasted that they were going to take the Super Eagles to the cleaners. In fact, one of their top players did say that they are going to send the Super Eagles to Sambisa Forest after the defeat. But at the end of 90 minutes and extra time, it became clear who the champion really is and who will be going to Sambisa Forest. Even though they are the desert warriors, you know, they are supposed to then go to Sambisa Forest. So Nigeria was able to acquit herself very well. The Super Eagles have become, you know, a force to be reckoned with. But with over 66,000 Moroccan fans that is going to be at that stadium today at 9 p.m., well, I just hope that the Super Eagles will be able to withstand the crowd pressure. But many of the Super Eagles players, you know, they play under pressure. Many of them are in Europe, so I'm sure they are familiar with that climate of pressure when you have to play against a host that has, you know, voices, you know, from everywhere, you know, ramming down. Well, I wish the Super Eagles good luck today. So far, Nigerians have been very, very proud of them. Rochelle has done very well. The Super Eagles coach has done very, very well. Nobody gave him a chance. He has proved himself. And I heard that is it DRC Congo or one of these countries now offering him double what Nigeria is paying him as monthly salary. But he has remained faithful to Nigeria and the Super Eagles. And many Nigerians are rallying behind the coach and their team this morning. I'm one of the biggest supporters of the Super Eagles. Each time I watch foreign, like particularly the Premiership, where you see Nigerian youths rooting for, you know, top Premiership club. I always tell them that I'm not loyal to any Premiership club. I'm only loyal to Nigerian clubs, particularly, Nigerian teams, particularly the Super Eagles. And today is a big day for us. Beyond prayers, I think we just have to support the Super Eagles. We wish them well, and at the end of the match today, I hope we all celebrate as Nigerians.
All right. That's the spirit. So let's go right ahead to Morocco and paint the fields green with green goals in a few hours. Let's begin with this Nigerian newspapers. And what's on the headline is really very concerning. Tax reforms. FG's consultant, Oyedele, that would be the chairman committee of Tax Reforms Committee, alleges death threat. Tax issue worsened by Nigerians' low public trust in government and limited visibility of how public revenues are utilized. Mr. Akiria, is the public understanding, the low public understanding, worse than the promise of the, you know, increased revenue and transformation of our tax system? Which trumps the other in this case now?
Well, I have issues with the tax reform. For me, ordinarily, there should have been nothing wrong with the federal government introducing the four tax reforms at this time. But the issue here is, you know, Nigeria is just reeling from multidimensional poverty. And 2 years ago, when Mr. President declared that subsidy was gone, and of course floated the naira, we saw the multiple impacts that it had on the economy, and it further sent the, you know, the economy reeling. So That, of course, exposed most Nigerians to economic hardship. As we speak, the unemployment situation is quite high. Inflation is not doing very well. Inflation is still hovering around 39–42%, which is very, very high. And of course, the purchasing power of Nigerians, we are talking about monthly salary. The federal government has pegged it at 70,000 naira a month. Even at that, many firms are not paying. Some state governments are not also paying the 70,000 naira. Even if it is paid, what is the comparison? What is the exchange rate of 70,000 naira to the dollar? The last time I checked, many countries, even Francophone countries around us, including Ghana, their currencies are doing very, very well. Nigeria is doing about 1,430 naira to a dollar. Ghana is doing about 10.5 cedis to the dollar, and Francophone countries are doing less than 100 CFA and so to the dollar. So what is happening to our currency? I think the government should focus on that. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is reputed to be a great manager of the economy, particularly in Lagos. That was the credentials he brought to Abuja. We want to see that resonate. We want to see the results of that. People are not happy. I think this is not the appropriate time to execute that tax reform. Oyedele is doing so well. Another issue is the president is Yoruba, Oyedele is Yoruba, and so a lot of people are suspicious that the president is simply getting one of his talk to come and try and persuade Nigerians to believe or to buy into the tax reform. But if you look at the prevailing conditions, the prevailing economic condition that is impacting on the lives of Nigerians, I think this is not the right time. Most voices, most people have spoken. In fact, corporate organizations have also spoken. Civil society organizations have asked the federal government to suspend the tax reform until such a time that the economic lives of Nigerians improve. I think that should be the focus at this point, rather than insisting that it must take effect. And really, it has taken effect. If you look at transactions, at the end of the month, if you look at your salary, you see what is happening to it. So it has taken effect, and I think many people are not happy with what's going on. Given the backdrop of the issues of accountability and transparency, first subsidy is gone. The government is not telling Nigerians what has happened to the accruing funds as a result of the cancellation of subsidy. And of course, electricity tariff, Nigerians are paying more. So what is happening to all the funds that are coming in? I understand, the states are getting more funds, but why the states are getting funds, federal government still get 52% of FAC allocation. But if you look at the roads across the country, not all the roads are doing well. Yes, the president is doing his best, but I think his best needs to improve. This is election year. Nigerians are going to measure the president's performance against what they see every day, their daily lives. So that is also why people are saying that votes should count in 2027 election.
Well, clearly, interesting times ahead, but it's interesting how you weaved all of these issues together. When it comes to the nationality of the president and Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, as much as yes, federal character must be followed through and through, understanding who we are as a nation, the ethnic diversities. A lot of people use that ethnicity when it's convenient. Take Eric Schell as an example now. His nationality is French, even though he has ties Mali and Ivory Coast. A lot of times when people hear France, it raises a red flag. But for football, nobody's saying anything because Eric Schell is getting us all of the results. So I think it's quite convenient for people to use nationality now because it's an issue of controversy. But really, at what point will we go beyond all of these, sentiments and really talk about the work? But let's look at the next paper, which is New Telegraph. It has a very interesting big story on counterterrorism. U.S. delivers military supplies to Nigeria as bandits kill ex-House of Assembly candidate and 4 others in Benue. So this is a mixed bag, really. What looks like good news for security and then very bad news for security as well, pages 4 and 29. But the other big question is, what is in this military supply package to Nigeria? It's not quite clear. And seeing the aircraft and how it was being offloaded, you begin to wonder, are these military fatigue uniform? Is it military? I mean, what is it? How will it improve security in that sense? But Mr. Akaria, how are you internalizing these two extremes?
Yeah, Kayode, I saw the visuals yesterday. Well, that immediately invokes some excitement in me. At least the U.S. is cooperating. We are no longer under pressure that America is coming to invade Nigeria, is going to take over the anti-terrorism war, from the federal government. Now, this point has to be made. Our armed forces, the armed forces of Nigeria, AFN, is one of the strongest military in Africa. It's a regional force, it's a power, but what is befuddling is why has the armed forces of Nigeria been unable to deal with this terrorism? Initially, I remember the last administration, Mohammed, who was the Minister of Information, keep hammering on the fact that it's an asymmetric warfare. You don't know who you are fighting and all of that. But now it is clear. We know where these people are. We know their locations with advancement in military technology, drones and all of that, and intelligence, that is gathered from ISRO platform. That is intelligence and reconnaissance aircraft, where people are able to know the specific location. But why are we unable to crush these terrorists whom we know their locations, across the country? The report is just read. Benue is almost becoming a killing field. And of course, Sokoto, the east of Sokoto, where Bello Toji, the notorious terrorist leader, is giving notice to communities to quit, and people are fleeing from those communities to safer areas and the urban areas. In a country where we have a government, I think this should be the focus of the federal government. President Bola Tinubu clearly is doing well. He has appointed, he has changed the service chiefs, he has reappointed Christopher Musa, who was former CDS, is now Minister of Defense. A whole lot of that. But Nigerians want to see how that translates to, to visible results on the ground. People can't move from one place to the other. They are not safe, and communities are being displaced. People are being killed every day. So the military supplies from the US, maybe for security and strategic reasons, they don't want to disclose what is in those packages. But at the end of the day, let those packages that is supplied to the military translate to visible results that, these terrorists are being decimated, they are being crushed, and the Katsina state government talking about granting amnesty or releasing 70 of these suspected terrorists who are in prison, that you're going to release them. It's also generating a whole lot of, public friction. I do not think this is the time to be talking about releasing people who were caught in the act of committing heinous crimes against the state. So all of the issues, religion is playing some role in this, ethnicity is playing some role, all kinds of considerations are coming in. People are becoming empathizing with people who are killing people, who have taken up terrorism as a career. That is not the path to go. And for the country, Nigeria is bleeding at the moment. Politicians are talking about election and how they will return to office in 2027. The focus really is how we can stabilize the security situation in the country, how we can improve the economic life of Nigerians and citizens, how citizens can sleep with their two eyes closed. That is where we are as a country, really. And these are very basic and fundamental issues that stares all of us in the face. And I think the work for the government is cut out. These issues have to be dealt with very clearly, and not just systematically. There should be transparency and accountability in the war against terrorism. I also need to make the point this morning. If you look at the Department of State Services and the new leadership of the DSS, I think most Nigerians are impressed with what the DSS is doing. The leadership of DSS is doing a great job. The leadership of the Air Force, Army and Navy, yes, they are working so hard. The point where we are now is to integrate community security forces. The Vigilante Group of Nigeria is there. We have the hunters and all. It is time to properly arm these people. Unfortunately, flush people out of the forest and bushes. Earlier in your, while you guys were analyzing, the news across the nation, Edo State, there are people in the forest, in the bushes. This is not about papering the issue. What is anybody doing in the bushes and forests? It's only farmers that go to the bushes to farm. When you farm, you return home. But people cannot take the bush, take the forest, and domicile there, build their house, and start terrorizing terrorizing law-abiding citizens. Anybody who is living the forest, who has taken the forest as an abode, must leave the forest or be taken out. That is it. Must be, must be asphyxiated, must be wiped out. We can't have people living in our forest. You leave the forest, you block the road, kidnap people, move them to your camps, and then you hide under. Whether you're a pastoralist or whatever they call themselves. We have a security situation, we have to deal with it very squarely. That's where we are.
Yeah, Mr. Akarega, a lot of mixed messaging. On one hand, we can see the efforts of our security agencies. We've seen the American army do what they did in Sokoto, yet we're seeing bandits being released in exchange for hostages, about 1,000 hostages, according to the government. And then government will also come out and say they don't negotiate with terrorists. So there's a lot of mixed messaging. Perhaps the aircraft and the military gadgets you saw, which we may not know what is the content, is also part of the messaging that the United States may be walking back on what they wanted to do. So there's a collaboration. We understand, according to one of the dailies, there's lobbying going on, almost to the tune of $10 million. So there's a lot going on. There are so many moving parts. But as you said, the most important thing is to make sure our lives are secured and to make sure our monies are utilized judiciously and for the right reasons. And that's why in the Southeast, Guardian is leading this time with an intersection between security in the region and the fiscal plan of the governments of that region. Lingering sit-at-home disruption may hurt Southeast 5.7 trillion naira fiscal plan. So that may be the summation of the entirety of the budget of the 5 states in the area. But there are people that are saying that, look, the sit-at-home may have, tapered, but it's still out there. And then the leaders are busy politicking, and that the focus should be the security of the region. What do you make of this headline, by the way?
Well, the IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu, is in prison in Sokoto now. And I think even before Nnamdi Kanu was sent to prison, the situation in the Southeast was already thawing, was beginning to, to recede. It is left for the political leaders in the Southeast. We have, apart from, the governors of the South, we have the Pan-Igbo group, Ohaneze Ndigbo. They have a whole lot of work to do to sensitize their people, to educate the Igbo nation on the need to maintain peace. I've always argued, it is my opinion that Nigeria as a country needs the Igbo more than they need Nigeria. That's the truth, because the epicenter of whether commerce, industrial activities, productive, epicenter is in the Southeast. So, and even if you talk about pharmaceuticals, so sometimes I wonder if the Igbos who are fighting for Biafra, if they are allowed to go, what will happen to the rest of Nigeria? So the Southeast is like the Taiwan of Nigeria, where a lot of productive activity, a lot of trading and business activities, go on, and they have been able, that has been able to cascade to the rest of the country, and you could see that has galvanized economic activities across the country. So the Southeast is very integral to the development of this country, to the economic stability and survival of Nigeria. So to that extent, it is not just only the Southeast leaders and governors that should be interested in what happens in that region. All hands must be on deck to at least appeal to the aggrieved youths, aggrieved individuals in that region, to sheath their sword and allow peace to reign. But in going forward, I think Mr. President should also consider, granting some kind of presidential pardon to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who is currently in Sokoto prison. Have a one-on-one discussion with him, get him out of prison so he can talk to his people. I remember the days of our legendary leader, Musa Yar'Adua, Umar Yar'Adua, who was former president of Nigeria, though late now, we saw his approach, how he was able to douse, you know, the militancy in the Niger Delta by sending a presidential aircraft to the region to fly in militant leaders. He had a conversation with them. By the time the militant leaders returned, the warlords returned, there was calm in the region, and that is how many years now to this point. Now you have Tantita, managed by Tompolo, guaranteeing and working hard, you know, to ensure that there is, you know, there's safety and peace around oil installations. So that region has moved on. I think that approach, that strategic approach, is what, you know, the federal government can still borrow a leaf from and engage, you know, leaders of whether IPOB, MASOB, or any other group that is taking up arms in that region. You know, and of course, the issue of marginalization of the South is no longer there. We have the Minister of Works and Housing, very strategic portfolio, you know, Umahi, former governor of Ebonyi State, who has been appointed. We have many of the governors from the Southeast. They've joined the ruling party, the APC, and all of that. So a whole lot is happening in that region. That also has to cascade and be governance to ensure peace. You know, so our hands has to be on deck.
Absolutely. And as much as the governors, you know, try to, you know, give a sense or a veneer of the Southeast sit at home being tackled sufficiently, if it keeps coming through, that means that there are still some huge parts of the sit at home in some parts of the Southeast. And, you know, we just must not play the ostrich where these things are concerned. We must thank you very much, Mr. Ikuakeria, for coming on the newspaper review segment. As always, it's been a pleasure having you, and we look forward to our next gig, same time next week.
Sure. We will be celebrating at the end of the march today. Thank you very much, Bukola. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, a big amen to that. Mr. Ikuakeria, by the way, is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. So we'll take a moment now and we'll begin the very first conversation this morning, and which borders on medical negligence following concerns over the weekend. But before we take that on, we will begin with politics in Abia State. So stay with us, we'll be right back.